What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Chaz. And today I have a very special guest, my good friend Kyle Oifer. Kyle, how you doing?
Doing well, Chaz. Thanks for having me on, my man.
Yeah, of course, man. I was super excited about this, and yeah, great friend. And I always talk about social media and how sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of it, but if we didn't have social media, we wouldn't be able to do this, you know? Got to
That's
meet
very
you.
true.
Yep, yep. Got to meet you through a bunch of mutual friends. My good friend Cole and our friend Michael Thomas as well, and been able to record some content in the past. And so yeah, super excited about this. Last time I saw Mike was posting about you being on a cut, man. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I'm still dieting. Long story short, in the past, I've spent a lot of my time doing these crazy bulks where I'd bulk for like I don't know, I gained maybe 20 or 30 or 40 pounds, and you're not gaining 20 or 30 or 40 pounds of muscle in a short period of time, and then I'd spend like 6 months to a year trying to see the little bit of muscle that I gained from that massive weight gain, and it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't great. And now we're doing kind of mini bulks and mini cuts where I'll gain maybe 10 or 15 pounds and then I'll lose maybe, 12 pounds or I'll lose 5 pounds, depending on how much, the quality of weight that I gain. So much more sustainable this way, much better, much healthier. So yeah, I'm on my mini cut again.
Right on. How long are you doing that for this time around?
It's a good question. We haven't necessarily done a time frame, more so just however long it takes. We're taking it slow because I didn't have much weight to lose this year. And a lot of people make that mistake when they jump into a cut. They just, they cut everything. They start running 10 miles a day or 20 miles a day and they cut all their carbs and all this. But we're just taking the slow, going very gradual with it, where we're slowly increasing calories and slowly increasing movement or cardio.
Right on. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think people jump into it and go a little too crazy sometimes, and I've definitely been there as well. I think I burnt out last time I was cutting. I had a
Hmm.
4 month plan and I was 2 months into it and I was so burnt out, and then I hit vacation and then, took the week off of my diet, and then
Sure.
got in a really bad cycle of each day. If I overate a little bit, I would wake up next day, run like 9, 10 miles. And so it was a very uneven balance. And so me as well, I'm cutting right now too. And so this time I'm really trying to take it slow and everything in moderation, and not crank the cardio, not lower the calories too much. And I could say it's definitely a lot better that way. I just recorded, I gotta upload it, but I talked a little bit about fasting and intermittent fasting,
Hmm.
and how for me personally, I don't think it was as good of a tool either, because then I had this internal clock of like restricting my eating, and then when I
Right.
took that off and I was able to eat breakfast like most people would normally think is acceptable, I was totally I enjoyed it a lot more. I'm able to space out my meals, and it works a lot better for me that way. Do you have a preference with your diet? What types of things that you practice, or are you really just moderation, whatever you're feeling that day? If you're hungry, eat. If not, then not eat.
That's a interesting question. So for me, everything has to be about sustainability, and
Mhm.
I've been a big time binge eater in the past, and as a man, you don't really think about men with eating disorders, but I was the textbook definition of a binge eater, where I would eat something I like and I wouldn't stop until I was extremely full. Um, so now for me, it's all about sustainability. It's about eating often, but not eating to the point where you're full, just eating till you're satisfied and then having your next meal. So for me, I view the amount of calories that I eat in a day as like a budget. So if you would budget for your business or budget for how much, for your personal life, right? You have to space out how much money you can spend where, and what bills are going to be paid, etc. So when I look at my food, I look at it almost as a budget where I say, okay, if I'm eating 2,500 calories a day, I can eat 5 meals of 500 calories, or I could do six, which each meal will be a little less, or I could do four, where each meal will be a little more. So for me, it kind of depends on what I have going on in my day. My work schedule is very all over the place. So days that I work, I might eat a bigger breakfast. When days that I don't work, I might have a smaller breakfast. But for me, it's all about not being ravenous, not being hungry. So when I eat meals, I try to eat foods that are low in calories so I can eat more of them. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, you could go to Wawa and get one donut, and that donut might be 300 or 400 calories or
Yep.
500 calories, but it's not going to fill you. For me, I'd much rather have a big bowl of watermelon, some eggs, and something else for that same 300 or 400 calories, which at the end of eating that meal, I'm going to feel pretty good. I'll say, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to eat till lunchtime now. And that's the issue with the junk foods are they're so highly condensed with calories, but they don't fill you up. So you can eat 3 or 4 donuts for 1,200 calories or more, or you can eat a huge bowl of watermelon. You can have an apple, you can have a banana, you can have a protein bar, and this, and then for the same amount of calories, and feel so full where you're not going to binge eat. You're not going to keep eating and eating and eating.
Yeah. That's it's super good point you made too about calories in, calories out, and it's something I don't think is taught enough in school. I had to figure it out personally through trial and error, doing fitness challenges with my family, tracking my food on an app, and then really opened my eyes like, oh my goodness, olive oil, like this much olive oil,
Yeah,
like you pour it in your pan just to make things not stick to your pan, you're adding 200 calories,
yeah.
and it's more calories than whatever you're eating. So you put eggs in a pan, it's absurd. It really does open your eyes to how how hard it is to lose weight when you eat bad food, which technically you can pull it off. Like you said, it's a budget.
Mm-hmm.
You technically could have a terrible diet if you're eating under your calories, but if you're like me, I love to eat. And so I'm not going to stop at the donut, which is 400 calories, and be like, "All right, sweet, I have 2,000 more calories to play with later." No, I'm going to eat that with something else. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
with you on that, and it's cool that you're able to, be honest about binge eating as well because it's something I struggle with. And even as recently, like I said a couple months ago, when my diet kind of hit a wall, I had I was at Bible study and they brought Krispy Kreme donuts in, and this was like peak of my I was really ready to fall off the wagon, man. And couldn't even tell you how many of them I ate. And we had pizza that night. And so the next day I was like hated myself. I was like, "Oh my goodness. I got to get the cardio back in. I can't eat all day the next day." And it's it's tough. And once you get in that cycle, it's really hard to break. So I really think it's important to like you said to speak up about it cuz men we don't really talk about eating disorders necessarily as often as we probably could. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important. And I think the more people speak up about it, I think it'll open some eyes to that because it definitely is a struggle. But along with that, fitness. So what are you doing workout wise then while are you keeping it pretty similar to what you would do anyways, or just really upping the cardio on top of the weights? What's going on with you right now?
Great question. For me, my workouts, I try to keep them simple. I try to stick to the very, basic compound movements like the bench presses, the squats, the deadlifts, the barbell rows, the pull-ups, chin-ups, barbell curls, tricep bench press. I like to do big movements. With that being said, I also do the accessories and whatnot. But for me, right now it's all about movement. And what I learned is because I live in New Jersey and I live in Florida both part time. And when I'm in Florida, I'm much more active. I'm outside much more. I'm walking much more. Because the weather's nice, and when you come back, thankfully it's summertime now. It's easy to stay in your house, right?
Mhm.
One thing I learned, basically, your environment it can shape your eating habits. It can shape your movement habits. Because who wants to go outside and run in January or February in New Jersey? Nobody does. So it's
Yeah.
very easy to stay in your house and just keep eating and eating and eating because eating is pleasurable, eating is fun, it's entertainment. When you're so many people eat when they're bored, um, myself included. But since I've been home, I've been trying to get outside and stay active and get my cardio in more fun ways. By I've been playing basketball maybe five out of 7 days a week, just
Mhm.
having fun, just nothing competitive, just going outside for an hour and messing around, shooting some hoops. I'm not anything special at basketball. I just have fun with it. And when I'm done, I see, man, I did 3 or 4 thousand steps playing basketball. That was much more enjoyable than being on a treadmill. So for me, it's
Mhm.
just all about being outside, going on a bike ride, going for a walk, walking your dog, just moving. That's what it's all about, is just keep moving. So that's kind of the cardio I've been doing. With my program with Mike MTF, everybody check him out on Instagram, Michael Thomas Fit. He's
Yep.
awesome. He has me doing a high intensity or high interval intensity training every other day in the gym. So if I work out 5 days a week, let's say Monday through Friday, Monday I would do it, Wednesday I would do it, and Friday I would do it. I'd spend 20 minutes either on the treadmill or on the Stairmaster going walking, running, or higher intensity on the tread or on the Stairmaster, and then I'd slow it down a little bit for a minute, and then I'd speed it up again for a minute. So that's about as much cardio as I've been doing these days. But minimum 10,000 steps a day, no matter if I'm in New Jersey or Florida, no matter the time of the year. And one thing, now I know I'm going off the beaten path here, but one thing I've learned is this year I've been consistent every day this year since January 1st, and it's now harder for me to break my habits that I made than it is for me to actually continue on doing them.
Yep.
So I've been doing push-ups every day, sit-ups every day, planks every day, and walking 10,000 steps. And it's much harder for me not to do it than it is for me to actually do it now, which is crazy to think about, because on the first day of the new year, January 1st, I was like, man, 100 push-ups, it stinks, the planks. But now it's I don't even think about it now.
Yep. Yeah, you worked it into your routine, and like you said, once you have that habit, it's harder to break it than it is to keep going, just because you hold yourself to that standard. And I do a lot of similar things to you, actually. I'm glad you mentioned the steps as well. That's why I got my Fitbit.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's so much easier than people think. It doesn't have to be high intensity, tough on your joints, tough on your legs. Like, for example, I walk my dog the whole loop of my neighborhood typically every night,
Mm-hmm.
as long as I'm home, and that's 2.25 miles. So I get 5,000 steps there. That's easy. I went on a walk this morning, waiting for it to heat up a little bit, and then I went and mowed the grass, and I'm already at 15,000 almost. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's really satisfying to like knock it out in those type of ways too. People forget. Just walk, just move. It really doesn't have to be as intense as, I love running, but you don't have to. Like, you don't have to run really. Especially, for example, if you could buy a cheap treadmill too, just turn on the TV and walk, and
Mm-hmm.
an hour passes and you don't even realize it. So I think that's another big thing people don't realize when it comes to weight loss. For example, you could cut out soda and walk 30 minutes a day, and then boom, like 500 calorie difference, pile that up over weeks and months. You could lose 5 pounds changing two things in your diet. It's pretty remarkable. So I'm glad you mentioned the steps too, because that's a big non-negotiable for me as well. Just because, like I said too, and like you said, once you start, it's kind of hard. It's hard to stop. All I have to do is walk my dog and then move a little bit, and I hit my step. So I don't really
Mm-hmm.
have an excuse anymore. So I think that once you hold yourself to that standard, I think it's really hard to make excuses.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I know Mike is always preaching the
Mhm.
non-negotiable. So when you
Yep.
make something in your life non-negotiable that you have to do it no matter what, it's like that sink or swim. You have to keep swimming. You have to keep doing it. And
Mhm.
the non-negotiables, like that promise with yourself, definitely goes far. Because when I started doing, like, I know it doesn't sound like much, but 100 push-ups every day, and I didn't really think I would actually be sticking with it this far into the year. And I'm like, I'm going to do it every day. I can't stop now. It's just part of my routine. It's like making my bed, saying my morning prayers. It's something I do every day now, no matter what. If I have work, I get up an extra 10 minutes before work to do my push-ups and sit-ups and everything like that.
Mhm.
And it's very easy to just continue on.
Yep. Yep. And it sets your day on the right foot when you're able to knock things out like that. Gets your body moving, because I know firsthand the days I wake up late and I get right into work. Say, like, I wake up late, so all I have time to do is take my brother to school, and then right when I get back I gotta clock in. Starts the day off so frantic. But if I wake up 2 hours early, I knock things out, read my Bible, get things going, and heart, you're good for your soul, your body, everything. Once you get all
Hmm.
those things really moving, right, right on the right foot, it's so much easier to have a good day, you know? It's
Absolutely.
it's so satisfying, and so, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, with your prayers and everything. So, how do you incorporate your faith then into things like your fitness and your nutrition?
That's a great question. Faith to me is everything. When it comes to nutrition and when it comes to fitness, I realize that I'm extremely blessed to have the body that I do. Now, everybody has a body, right? Everybody has one body that we live in, and we have to treat that right. And
Mhm,
now, there's obviously been times in my life that I haven't treated it correctly, but I strongly value and I strongly appreciate my health, and I want to continue on being healthy, not just for now, but in my later years in life. And I know that the habits that I build now are going to continue on for the rest of my life. So I just want to treat my body right. It feels good to feel good. It's not just about looking good on the beach or feeling good. It's just about feeling good. It's about being healthy, and when you feel good, you're more productive, you're better for your family, you're better for your friends, you're more available, you have more energy. And now I know I dissed on looking good on the beach, but a lot of people, they need that for their mental health as well, because when you look good, you mentally feel better. And I've been somebody my entire life who has been overweight, and when you look good or when you like what you see in the morning, or when you're looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning, it makes you more confident, makes you happier. But for me, it's just all about being healthy, and that's just another way to honor God, is just by doing what's right for your body. And there's a lot of movements about body positivity, but I think real body positivity is about treating your body positively.
mhm.
um, so for me, it's just all about doing that and setting the example for my friends, for my family. And like I said, when you treat your body right, you feel better, and I feel
Mhm.
good, and I want to keep feeling good. I don't want to be sick as much as I used to be. I don't want to have as low energy as I used to. I like having energy. I like feeling healthy. And the last thing I'll say on that is, when you wake up that one morning and you're like, man, I don't feel good. Your nose is running, you're coughing. That's when you start to really appreciate the other days that you've been feeling great. It's when you're sick. That's when you're like, I can't wait to feel better. Like, doctor, give me some medicine, give me some
Mhm.
antibiotics, give me something. And then once you feel better, you really appreciate feeling better. So I always want to feel good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Once I started looking at fitness as a way to honor God and really take care of the body and the temple that He's given me, it changed a lot. Honestly, it's hard to make excuses or slack off in your workout too when you put in perspective that God gave us this body for a reason, and we're supposed to, honor God through everything we do. And so who am I to halfway do a rep or skip out on a mile or skip a workout? Who am I to do that, you know? It's really a way to bring light to his kingdom, and that leads into another thing that you mentioned, where the idea of looking good on the beach. I want to pick your brain on this. When do
Okay.
you think when do you think it's too far, for example, fitness influencers? Do you know Alex Eubank?
So,
Dude, long blonde hair.
sounds familiar. I would probably know him if I saw him.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. I'll send you his profile, but he's a Christian too, actually, and so I think it's super cool that he's really open with his faith. But there comes a time in the fitness industry and bodybuilding in particular. Do you think there's a line that can be crossed where it's too much pride and it's almost like a vanity type of thing, where it's like, all right, we get it. Like, you're super shredded. That's what you make your living based off your physique, but like, you're half naked in all your pictures. Like, where do we draw the line from that? And because it's no different than if a girl did it, you know what I mean? It's where. What is your opinion on? I guess maybe is it because it's constantly just you're just like shirtless, no clothes, like all the time? Do you think there's a line where it's too much and it's not honoring God necessarily?
Well, you mentioned the word pride, and I think it's okay to be proud of who you are and be happy with who you are, but pride is sinful in many ways, where You know,
Mm,
you don't want to be showboating yourself, and you don't want to be putting others down, and you don't want to be like, look at me, I'm God. Like, look how great I am. I'm God's greatest gift to this world, because
mm,
God has a greatest gift to this world that died and rose from a cross. Um,
amen.
but I think there is a line, and like you mentioned the word pride, and you know, it's a very delicate line to cross is pride. I think it's okay to be internally proud of who you are, but like you said, like when you're starting to like when you're boasting it to the world, and I understand it's your business. I understand, and I think it's okay to a degree where you're like, this is how I look, this is what I do, and I want to help you. I want to show you what I do to so you can be able to achieve a bicep like this, or achieve abs like this, or
Hmm.
achieve a physique that makes you feel good about yourself. But then there's also the influencers that are, you know, making these TikToks and reels that are just like, look how great I am. I'm
Hmm.
the best. I'm the best thing ever. And listen, I understand that you should be happy with yourself. But like you said, it's a very difficult thing because you want to be very proud of yourself, but you also don't want to be boasting yourself. I think it's a very difficult question. I should have studied more before I came up with this answer, because this is my answer is a little all over the place. I'm kind of talking like a politician right now when you ask me a good question, because I see it from both angles. But for me, all right, this is my answer. This is my answer for you, Chaz.
All right, all right.
Do it with intentions to benefit the world. Do it in intentions to say to the heavy kid in gym class who is huffing and puffing running the mile that you have to run every year, you can do it. I did it. I was there. You can build a good body by doing this exercise, by eating this certain way. But don't get to the point where you're having that God complex, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like that answer. And it's something I've had to really, really sit and think about and let resonate inside me because I was heavy too for a long time. I put on a lot of weight in school. I lost probably close to 30 pounds, maybe 35 at my lightest compared to my heaviest. And for me, for a long time, it was almost, I had this thought in my mind where I was going to get so shredded. I was going to prove everyone wrong. I was gonna like post some crazy pictures just shredded. And then I really started to think like, so why am I doing it? You know what I mean? And I think that, like you said, if there's a practical aspect where you're lifting people up and you're inspiring people and you have practical evidence or practical tools and advice that can be applied to someone, I think it's perfectly fine. I think if it's a tool to inspire and really, again, our bodies are gifts from God. And if you've worked that hard on your physique and you've done it from good intentions, good godly intentions, and you're displaying that, then I think it's a overall I think it's a good thing for the world to see, like, okay, this person genuinely used fitness as a platform for God. Look what they achieved because of their desire to really build a body that is respectable and is something that God would look at and see the hard work that we're putting in for his glory. And I think it gets to the point where if you're not providing any help or advice with it and it's just like a picture and you're just like half naked, I think that's when you got to look at it and be like, all right, why'd you post this? But if you're genuinely helping people, like you said, and it's uplifting, then I think it's totally fair. But I also think listen to like try to think about and listen to your convictions as well. Like if you're posting it and you feel really convicted, I think that says something as well. But that's when you have to use discernment and really make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. But it's just that thought came in my head and I've really been thinking about it, and I try to ask all my friends who are in fitness, who are into, or have a media presence, what their thought is on that because it's super interesting. Like when I'll show you Alex Eubank, and like I said, he's a Christian, but there's some posts where it's like dude's just in his underwear, and do you know what I mean? I'm like, come on, man, like why? It just to me sometimes you cross a line, and I'm not trying to judge, but I think we got to hold each other accountable. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. I mean, it depends. Some people are on stage that
Hmm.
doing it as a sport that are wearing those the short shorts or whatnot, but that's their sport.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have other people that are just doing it so their girl or ex girlfriend can see it. Um, so I guess like it depends. It depends on their motives, depends on their heart. And I do understand what you're saying completely. I've been on both sides. I've
Hmm.
posted pictures in high school where I'm like, yeah, like I'm finally in shape. Like now, like girls are gonna like me. Um, I used to wear a bodybuilding.com shirt to school every day because I thought like it would get me like respect from like other dudes or like girls would be like, oh my gosh, like he lifts weights, like that's so
Yeah.
great. And now I'm like, yeah, like I got in great shape. Everybody like I did it. You can do it. Like this is my personal trainer. He helped me. He gave me the blueprint. Now, like reach out to him so like he can give you the blueprint, or like reach
Yep.
out to me. Like I've had people. Not that I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything, but I've had people reach out to me saying, hey, like what do you think about like I want to lose weight or I want to gain weight or stuff like that. And obviously I'm no expert, but I've been in their shoes. I've been there. So like yeah, sure. Like I remember during COVID I made a post and I got a lot of negative feedback on it. I said, everybody's worried about health right now. Everybody's worrying about being masked up and getting your shots and getting this and that. But I said, what about the other aspects of health? So
Yep.
what about your body fat percentage? What about your cholesterol? What about this? What about that? How much salt are you eating a day? How much sugar are you eating a day? Are you eating greens? And I posted a picture, and it was side by side of like a before and after picture of myself. And I said, if you're really worried about health, ask yourself these questions. And some people were like, you're absolutely right. And other people were like, no, like, how could you say that? Like,
Yep.
we're in a crisis right now. We're in a pandemic and you're worried about eating healthy. I said, yeah, that's just
Yep.
as important. You know, I mean, now I'm really talking out of bounds, but like COVID-19 affected people who were obese worse than people who were not obese. So I said, you
Oh
have
yeah.
to ask yourself these questions. Um, so I, moral of the story is I think you have to, if you do it with a heart that wants to benefit people and, hey, like, hey world, like I want to help you. Like I've done it. Like, let's glorify God together. Then I'm all for it.
Amen. Yeah, and I'm all for talking about things like COVID, man. You don't have to censor anything on my podcast, man. I'm with you. When I'll tell you a funny story too before we close. I got COVID at school, and I was Cole was literally on the way to my house to pick me up to go to the gym. Like I felt perfectly fine, and I didn't end up going because I told him I was like, hey, I have COVID. But I think the 3, 4, 5 days, however many that I quarantined that I had to for the school,
Mm-hmm.
I was going on runs. I was literally like running with COVID. And I obviously if I didn't feel good, I wouldn't have done it. But I think that when you really take care of your health, you could get something like COVID, and most people are going to be able to handle it. They have a healthy immune system. They're able to really handle it and respond well and can do things like going on a run when you have COVID. So I'm with you on that. I think that we really need to, before we start worrying about masking up and all these things, we need to take care of our health, because if we took care of our health as a nation, because most of us are obese, let's be real, it's like probably like 30, 40, however much percent. If we all took care of our bodies, we're gonna respond better to things like that. So I really I'm with you on that. I think that when health is more at the center of, like, when we don't think about masking and taking pills and all these things first, I think it goes a long way in your diet and your nutrition and all these things. And then it goes full circle. I think when you have faith and God is the center of your life and what Christ did for you on the cross, you want to do those things like take care of your health and eat well and make sure that you can be a positive force for the world. And then when things like COVID come around, it
You're
doesn't
prepared
hurt you as
for it.
much. Yeah, you're prepared, exactly. And I feel like I'm talking in circles now, but I get worked up too, man. I feel like it's like we neglect our health as a nation too oftentimes. And you look at who's in charge, man. Most of the people like the health leaders of the world, they're all obese, man.
Yeah, I
Ridiculous.
mean, to piggyback on what you said, I had COVID. I had it really bad. I was out for, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I was
Hmm.
I was pretty banged up with it, but it would have been that much worse
Yep.
if my body was in a worse state entering that illness. So moral of the story is, like, obviously, like, somebody like me who's healthy and young, I got COVID, it knocked me out, but it would have been that much worse if I wasn't. So,
Hmm. Yeah, and not to not appreciate the fact that, I didn't have it bad. I was very blessed to not be affected too much by it, which, like you said, I mean, it affected you a lot harder than it did me. And so it's important to, yeah, remember that people get hit differently and it hurts them differently. But I'm glad you mentioned too that, if you weren't taking care of your health, it would have been that much worse. And I think that, being young and in shape and taking care of yourself is a very good way to, it's even if it hits you hard, like it lessens it a little bit. Would you say
mhm.
so?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, a lot of people have, like, a lot of bad lung issues with it. And
Hmm.
thankfully, like, just my overall cardio, my body was decent and in good shape. So I was, a little bit better off than I could have been. Um, but it's like, you'll go into a store, 7-Eleven or a Wawa, and you'll see somebody who's wearing a mask because they want to be healthy to protect themselves from a disease. But then you look at what they're buying. They're buying 3 Red Bulls, a donut, and some fried food that they got there. And it's like, well, if you're worried about getting sick,
Yep.
why are you eating foods that are going to make you sick? Because you can either eat food so you don't have to take medicine, or take medicine because of the food you eat.
Yep.
So there's two ways to go about it.
Yep. I've heard pretty often nowadays people saying food is medicine. People big on eating red meat, organic, pasture raised eggs type of things, raw cheeses, raw dairy. A lot of those people really, really stand by food being medicine, which is so interesting to me. And it really just puts in perspective how processed our diets are as Americans, really. Like being in the States, so much food is, the seed oils, everything's processed, like it's really hard. It's really, really hard because we weren't meant to eat processed foods, especially to the extent that they are now, but it's just so normal to us that I would even go as far, I've heard this before, people even say that we're almost addicted to junk food. Would you say to an extent we're, as a nation and even the world really at this point, would you say that we're addicted to the processed foods and that's why it's so hard to really tighten up the diet because we're mentally addicted?
So capitalism is a cure for almost about everything. God's a cure for everything, but capitalism is the best economic system we can ever have. And when it comes to capitalism, there's things called marketing, right? And we have so much competition in our country, which is great, but we're constantly being marketed to, especially children, to all sorts of different junk foods, whether it's cereal, whether it's different kinds of cakes and cookies and Oreos and this and that. We're constantly surrounded by it. And another thing, as a society that we are now, is we are addicted to instant gratification.
Yep.
So when it comes to being instantly gratified, which is when you eat a cookie or when you eat a piece of pizza or something unhealthy, you are it's instant gratification. Just like TikTok, just like the Instagram Reels, it's all instant entertainment, it's instant gratification, it's instant satisfaction. And when you're being marketed these things that are going to grant you that instant gratification, you jump to it. And throughout the history of our country, you've seen different fads, right? We've seen different traditions. Many years ago, we were living in a don't eat any fat, eat fat free, right? And then
Mm.
these companies started pumping a ton of sugar into our food. And then all of a sudden it's don't eat sugar. Now it's keto. So these companies are, they're profiting off of us based off of different marketing schemes that the leading scientists say that sugar is causing you to be fat, or fat's causing you to be fat. And
Mhm.
you can go buy the low fat cookies, or you can buy the sugar free cookies, right? But the sugar free cookies have a lot of fat in it, and the low fat cookies have a lot of sugar in it. So we're constantly being marketed, and we created an instant gratification that eating some foods like that will grant us, on top of the marketing and on top of different advertising schemes. And you buy this, and there's a toy in it for the kids, right? Like
Yep.
McDonald's, the Happy Meals. You get your Happy Meal, it makes you happy, and you get a little toy, and you can collect the toys. And um, so capitalism, I love capitalism, but with that being said, there's also the other side of it too, where there are people that are saying, like, look, my product doesn't contain GMOs, it doesn't contain pesticides, it doesn't contain this, it doesn't contain that. Our chickens are free range, our chickens do this, our chickens eat this kind of meal. So there are the opposite of that as well when it comes to healthier foods. But ultimately, I think as a society, we are addicted to that instant gratification. We are addicted to that um, the junk foods, because junk foods are instant gratification, and they're addicting because as soon as who just eats one chip or one little Oreo cookie? Let me go open the Oreos. Who
Yeah.
has one? Nobody, right? Um, and also, sugar is addicting. Sugar is extremely addicting. As soon as your blood sugar spikes and it comes back down after eating something like that, you crave it instantly again.
Yep.
You want it again. It's more addicting than anything. They've done studies with rats. Sugar is more addicting than cocaine or this drug or this drug. Sugar is addicting. Uh,
Hmm.
um, but all like as we said earlier, it all comes to me, it comes from the household, right? If you have a parent that has a little kid and says, "Oh, you want candy," and they give their kid sliced watermelon or grapes or cantaloupe, the kid's gonna say, "Oh, this is candy. This is great. This is my dessert," right? A dessert in that modern household is fruit, a
Yep.
fruit salad, and that becomes dessert. All of a sudden, you start to change, and then if you have kids that come from super strict households like that, they might either continue to be strict with it, or they might, try to be different and be an outlaw and go after all that candy and sugar and cakes. But now I'm just talking all over the place. Moral of the story is sugar is addicting. Marketing brings us towards it. Instant gratification. We love it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that that's super interesting. The idea too that, we could raise kids and call fruit candy and then see where it goes from that. That's a whole nother, I feel like,
That's a
rabbit
whole
hole.
nother,
But
right.
yeah, no, but no, that's awesome, man. But yeah, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man, and definitely have to get you back on the podcast soon. I think we have a lot more that we could cover. I think we should
Oh, yeah,
get
for sure.
Cole and Mike on here too, man. Get a whole group podcast going. But absolute pleasure, man, and you're welcome back on anytime.
Thank you. Let me know when. I'll be back.
Of course, God bless, brother.
God bless. God bless. Jesus is king.
Amen.